Hello, I'm Shyboy616 and welcome to my studio. This time I'm going to try a little something different and talk about some holiday shopping. Christmas is right around the corner, it's about to be Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and well, these days we've had deals from the start of November, we got Black Friday week, and then Cyber week, and then last minute shopping right before the holiday in December. While I'm not going to do any deal hunting, I wanted to make a sort of shopping guide to be sure you're picking the right gaming device for you. Hey, looks like we got a special guest arriving right now. Hey Grinch. Glad you brought Max this time around, but why are y'all so small? It was the only way y'all could get through the door. Okay, that makes sense. That bag there's for me? I guess before we take a look at what y'all got in there, let's talk gaming. Gaming is bigger than ever as there's so many different options and devices to play on. You of course have your consoles with Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, but then you have the PC space, which is growing constantly. Not just in terms of parts performance, you have several form factors. You have your desktop, your mini desktops, you have a laptop, now you even have handhelds. It's a huge market, there's so many options. Of course, depending what it is, the prices can range from very low to very high, going up into the thousands just for the one device. So to go through all this, we're going to go from the lowest to highest in terms of form factor, starting with mobile and cloud gaming. Now mobile gaming, everybody knows. Download a game on your phone, tablet, you're playing it. But you also have the option of cloud gaming. There are devices specifically made for cloud gaming, but you can do this on your phone or tablet. With any sort of subscription or an app, you can play console games on your phone through streaming via the internet. Some of the streaming can be done through a subscription or from your own device. Say you have your console at home, you have it on, you can stream the games you have on there to your device. And because the game is coming from a different device, it doesn't really matter what you're playing on, just something you like looking at and holding. Okay. I guess that doesn't really count as a gaming device to some people. If you're playing a game, you're gaming. Well, let's go into the devices made specifically for that, starting with the consoles. What y'all got? And to start off, we got Xbox and PlayStation, the two big rivals right now. And I wanted to bring these up first. Well, they're probably going to be the first options you consider. Every time there's a Black Friday deal, you're being hit with the console bundles, whether it's for Xbox or PlayStation. Right now you have the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, or even the Series S. So the big difference with the Series X and S is, well, the S is the cheaper model, it's a lot smaller, it's not as powerful, but it's still capable of playing all the same titles. I bring up the Series S as well because, well, it's so cheap. You can get it, I think, for $300, and that's quite a bargain for gaming. And top that off with a Game Pass subscription, you can have all the games you want. Unless you want to own specific games, getting Xbox Game Pass is going to be the best bang for your buck because you're going to have access to tons of titles every month and you're going to be able to play online. PlayStation does have its equivalent in PS Plus, but from what I understand, it's not as grand scale as Xbox Game Pass seems to be. And Game Pass is something you can even get in the PC space, whereas PlayStation, that's just going to be for the console itself. When deciding between the two, you need to consider what games you want to play, as both consoles have their own exclusives. If you want to play the PlayStation exclusives, you're more than likely going to want the PS5. Another thing to think about is the controller. It's pretty cool. You got this touchpad here, it's got the adaptive triggers, and it even has gyro. Not every game utilizes it, and if you're not too blown away by that, you don't really care, then you might be fine with the Xbox, unless, of course, again, you want the exclusives on the other device. And well, there's one other console that has yet to join the party, and they're up next. And that is, of course, the Nintendo Switch. Now, I really like the Nintendo Switch. It is kind of old at this point. Sounds like we got Switch 2 coming up, but it is still something worth considering. What's really cool about your standard Switch is that, yes, it is a home console and you have it docked to your TV, but it is also a handheld, meaning you can play it wherever you want. There's even a Switch Lite, which is only handheld and cannot be docked to a TV. That's a good option to consider if you're only going to play handheld or you want the cheaper one to hand off to your kid and not feel as bad about it. Of course, if you want them to be able to play on the TV still, or you're all sharing it and want it on the nice big family device you can play on your couch, get the standard one that can be docked. And the absolute biggest reason you're gonna pick this is all the exclusives. Nintendo is known for all sorts of exclusive titles that they never release to anybody else. While I would love to see them turn into a software company and just release games for all consoles, I don't really see that happening anytime soon, so I like to be sure I have the newest Nintendo in my library. Before moving on to PCs, I just want to go over a little more why you might be picking one over the other in the console space. I consider the Switch to be the best option for kids and families because there's a lot of party games, a lot of kid-friendly titles, and again, it's the cheaper option, and if you want the TV to yourself but your kid wants to play, you can just hand this to him and be like, okay, here, you play over there, I'm gonna go play something on my Xbox. But obviously, if you want more power and all that, you want to be able to use all the different apps like Netflix, Hulu, things like that. These are going to be better options for that. They're great multimedia devices. The Switch, not so much. Another thing I've seen that's pretty popular these days is treating their consoles like a desktop. You'll have your desk set up, which is fine, obviously, if you want to do that, but not everyone has a desk setup, so consider that whether it's you or you're buying for somebody else. The most traditional option is just going to be on your couch with your TV. Luckily, consoles are fairly cheap when it comes to buying electronics, so all you need to do is be sure you have the TV or monitor setup of your choice. And next up, I can't really pull that out of the bag, but let's talk desktops. There's a lot of options for desktops these days, whether it's building your own, getting a full-size tower, or even picking a mini one that's probably going to be about this big. The cool thing with PC over console is, well, you can probably play just about anything with the right parts. Get a decent mid-range or even beginner PC these days, you're going to have access to just about every game ever made. If there's any exclusives, well, unless you're doing emulation, which we're not going to talk about Voyaging the Seven Seas today, with emulation you can even play anything you want on a PC. Even with console exclusives, if you don't really care about that, if you get a PC, you're going to have access to tons of titles that simply don't make it to the console. So I'm going to go over the full-size tower first. Whether you're buying pre-built or building your own, this is going to be the most powerful option when it comes to gaming. Of course, how powerful you get is dependent on your budget, and if you're going high-end, that can go well into the thousands. Getting a 4090, I believe, is pretty close to $2,000 right now, and that's a lot just for one part of the computer. That's not even considering all the other stuff that actually makes it run. You can possibly get a lot more bargains if you build your own by getting each separate part. Just go deal hunting for those specific pieces. Thankfully, because there's so many resources on the internet, just look up what's a good CPU for gaming? What's a good GPU for this game? Getting these graphics settings. My recommended specs at this point, just without naming any specific brands or parts, just be sure when you're looking around, you got your CPU, the processor, the GPU, the graphics card, at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, whether it's DDR4 or DDR5. You can get cheaper bargains going DDR4 because that's older, but if you want the modern, latest performance, DDR5 is going to be your best bet. Be sure you're getting something with an SSD or solid state drive. Trust me, you're going to want that. Your computer's going to be so fast with that, especially if it's an NVMe over a SATA drive. And because I brought it up, I haven't used one myself, but I quickly wanted to talk about mini PCs. What's cool about these is essentially it's like laptop parts, but inside a small form factor. A laptop's not necessarily that much weaker than a full-size desktop, but the parts are a little bit different. Get those specs that I said before. Just know when you're getting these mini PCs, there are some that have a dedicated graphics card in it, but as is, those are going to be running off of integrated graphics built into that CPU. If you look around though, you can find some that have either a Thunderbolt or Oculink port, and you can add an external GPU. And what's really cool about that is you just have this cable going into a dock, plugged into your graphics card of choice, and you're getting that full-on desktop experience from a smaller device. So when getting a desktop, it can be very cheap or very expensive depending what you're looking for. The absolute biggest thing to consider when you're getting a computer though is that even then you got your nice PC ready to go, you still need your mouse, keyboard, and monitor. And when picking your monitor, I would suggest something that's at least 120 hertz and then up, because anything below that, you might as well be on a console locked to that 60 frames per second. If you're picking a PC over a console, you're more than likely expecting or wanting more power, so you're going to want to get something capable of using all that power. So if you want the high refresh rate, better graphics, higher end, you're going to want to go with PC, because even if you don't get the highest end thing right now, if you get the right thing, you can upgrade later on in the future. But if you want an out-of-the-box experience, let's take a look at the next thing here. And that is laptops. Specifically here, I have an Acer Nitro V5. I'm assuming it's V, I've never seen it say 5. But what's cool about getting a laptop over desktop, you have everything here, and holy crap, this thing is dusty. So the nice thing about the laptop, you get everything from your desktop, including monitor, some even have the webcam, speakers, microphone, and of course, your keyboard and mouse. One recommendation I would make though, trackpad's not that great for gaming when you're needing to look around left and right click, so I'd recommend getting a standalone mouse. Now the price of this laptop when I got it was about $800, and something that I had done was upgrade the storage. What's cool is some laptops, if you open it up, don't worry, it's not that scary. A lot of them are pretty simple, whether it's just pulling out all these screws, popping off the backplate. You can find the ports that you need to make some simple upgrades. Those upgrades can include upgrading the RAM, whether it's swapping out what's already there, or putting one in the empty slot if it only came with one stick. And it also included an extra spot to put a second drive. So on top of the drive that's already in here, I was able to put another one for even more storage. That's something to keep in mind when picking out a laptop. If you like it as it is, obviously, yeah, pick that one. But if you think it's like, well, what if I want to do this in the future, like add more storage or swap out the RAM? do a little research to see if that specific laptop you're looking at is capable of doing that yourself. And when I say that, you can obviously do just about anything if you really try, but some are much easier than others. Like I said, for this one, all I had to do is take out these screws, pop off the plate, boom, stuff's right there. That's all I had to do. Some it's a little more proprietary. They don't really want you messing with it. They want you to buy the model that had everything you wanted in the first place, which can make an already expensive item even more expensive. If you're choosing a laptop over a desktop, there's not as much upgradability or customization. I know I said you could do the RAM and storage, but things like the graphics card, the processor, you're not really going to be replacing any of those things in these. But at the end of the day, you can still treat it like a desktop and hook it up to the monitor of your choice if you don't want to be stuck to the screen all the time. But that means you need to have a dedicated desk setup, and some people are just not able to do that, and that's understandable. Other noteworthy things about laptops though is because it's a lot of power packed into a small package, they can get pretty loud with the fans trying to cool the thing off. And if you really want your full gaming performance out of your laptop, you're going to need to be plugged in. It is not going to be unplugged like any other laptop, because to run that graphics card in there, it needs a lot more power. And this is even more so for the more expensive ones. Laptops do tend to cost more, but consider the fact that you're getting everything together. You're not having to go pick out the mouse, keyboard, monitor. No, it's already there. And like I said, a lot of them already come with things like the webcam, speakers, and microphone, whereas if you're on a desktop, you would absolutely need to pick either a monitor that has built-in speakers, separate speakers, or a headset. And what separates gaming laptops from your standard laptops, as I said already, is the fact that it does have the graphics card in there to pull off those gaming graphics. So don't expect to get any old laptop and it's gonna game. Sure, some might, especially if it has those same parts that are in something like those mini PCs I mentioned up earlier. Look up what pieces are in there, find out what they are, and look up if they can game. Be sure you're picking the right thing for what you want to do. And that's the great thing about all these devices. If there's some certain titles you want to take a look at, or you want to be sure this device is able to game, find out what the main components are, so the CPU and the GPU, and see what games they're capable of playing. There's probably someone running benchmarks of it. And now going a little more down from the laptop space, let's bring up a newer space that's still ever changing and growing. Handheld PCs. Specifically, I own a Steam Deck. What's cool about handheld PCs, you're getting the experience of all the desktop, but in a truly on-the-go package. These are not like the laptop where you need to be plugged in to get that gaming power. This is ready to go just like this, much like the Nintendo Switch. Now you could get an ROG Ally or a Lenovo Legion Go, and I think there's some others out there these days where they run off of Windows instead, so you can have that familiar experience and know that all your games are going to work. With the Steam Deck though, it's running off of Linux, and some issues you might run into with that is not all anti-cheats, if you're playing online, will run off of this. Some of the games might not have great compatibility on here, but just look up the games you want to play, be sure they're going to run on here. Steam even has their own great thing where it says, oh, this game is Steam Deck compatible, this is playable, you just might have to tweak it a bit, or it's like, this is not going to run on here, whether it's because of something with the actual software, or it's just too graphically demanding for what the device can pull off. When you buy these handhelds though, they do offer their own interfaces to try to give you a more console-like experience. It's kind of like a nice bridge from going the console to PC without being like, holy crap, what's all this? While yes, the endless, infinite customization of PC is great, it can be overwhelming if you've only ever been on a console and you're not quite ready for that jump. So maybe the handheld might be the route you want to be if you've been on console before and you want to make the jump to PC, but you're not sure what that's going to look like just yet. What I really like about my Steam Deck is the controls. The controller itself feels great. I like the trackpads here. They act like the ones on a laptop. And then you have these programmable buttons on the back. And the way this is able to run versus the things like the gaming laptop and desktop is it is integrated graphics, so it's not a dedicated GPU in here. I mean, where is it going to go? But it runs perfectly fine because it was built for it. It kept in mind, it's like, I'm gonna game on a handheld device, I can't be too strong. That's why the screen is not gonna be the highest resolution, but it's perfectly fine for its size. And something that I would be very interested in trying myself, much like with the mini PCs, if you get the right handheld, you can add an external GPU when you dock it. Sadly, the Steam Deck as is not able to support an external graphics card, but let's say you got that Ally or the Legion Go, you can set that up using the ports on there to use an external graphics card, giving you that desktop-like performance off your handheld. Power all that stuff off when you're done, unplug it, and you still have a gaming device in your hand. It's not going to be as strong, but you can still game on it, and even have the option to do streaming on here if you want, and you have other devices to stream from. Now again, like the laptop, this is not upgradable in the same way a desktop would be, but I was able to swap out the drive for more storage, and there's the option of putting in a micro SD to store more games. Now that we've gone over every device and what's special about each one, what's best for who? Well, if you're more family oriented, or it's going to be something you're going to play on the couch, maybe with other people, I'm going to say go with the console. Go with the one of your choice specifically for what games you want. But again, I think the best kids console out there is going to be the Switch, just because, well, it's got a lot of kid-friendly titles, it's cheaper, so it's not going to feel too bad if something happens to it, and because it's such a small form factor, it's perfect, especially if you're getting that handheld only if you don't want them on your TV. But when picking your console, consider the exclusives to see whether you want to go with the Switch or if you want the more powerful systems with other titles. Gotta be sure you're going the right way, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation. Now, if you want an all-around device that's capable of playing just about anything, because even PlayStation exclusives are making their way to PC every now and then, you're going to want to go with that desktop, laptop, or even the handheld. If you're someone that's on the go and can't be stationary at all times, but you still want to get some gaming done, you're going to want to go with the laptop or handheld. But a reminder about the laptop is you're not going to get that full gaming performance unless you're able to be plugged in, so you might be leaning a little more towards the handheld if you truly need an unplugged experience. So I guess to give you an idea of how I was able to make all these points, let me tell you, I do own all these devices. I do not have a PlayStation or Xbox. I play on my Switch every now and then. I want to play something like Mario, Smash Bros. But most of my gaming is getting done on my desktop for my graphically intensive and competitive games. If I'm on the couch chilling and I still want to play Call of Duty or something like that, I want my laptop. For all around, just whatever I want to play, I really love not just handheld PCs, but my Steam Deck. I think this is a great device. The reason I would personally still pick this over the Windows handhelds as well, I really like the controller. I like the trackpads, I like the little buttons here on the back. It's cheaper, and it's got a nice size screen. Yeah, it's not as high resolution as the other ones are, but the reason it's able to pull off so much is that it's not at such a high resolution. So my personal pick overall, if I were to pick only one device out of everything I have, I will probably go with my desktop with the Steam Deck as a very close second, almost tying. At the end of the day, just do your research on what titles you want to play, be sure you're picking the right device for that. If you go the route of PC and you're doing a desktop, I will personally recommend picking out the parts yourself and putting it together. It's honestly not that scary, and there's tons of tutorials online. But if that's something you're not quite up for, you just want an out-of-the-box experience, of course, go pre-built, laptop, whichever. At the end of the day, it is your decision. I just wanted to help out and be sure you're making the right one. Grinch, Max, y'all come up here to say goodbye. So I hope everything I said here today can help you out in deciding what's the right device to pick. Again, I wasn't really deal hunting. Just keep in mind, there's tons of resources out there to tell you, is this a good deal? Just look up parts. There's probably forums, there's sites that will tell you deals. If you're building your own PC, I absolutely recommend using PC Part Picker. And if you are blessed to have the option, if you're going the PC route, absolutely take a look at Micro Center, as they tend to have the best deals on anything involving computers. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. And feel free to leave any thoughts you have in the comments down below. Feel free to follow my various social media accounts. I am active on Instagram, and I use Letterboxd and write reviews on there anytime I watch something new. Also check out my other channels if you want to see some gaming, food reviews, or short films I make. I also stream over on Twitch every now and then. And be sure to come back here as I try to have a video at least once a month. I'm Shyboy616 with the Grinch and Max. Happy holidays, and I will see you next time.
See you next time.